Whether a relationship is going to last or not isn't up to how many times you showed up for just the good moments. Trust, the bond shared, and true fulfillment is built every time you show up for your partner when they're not doing good. Today we're going to focus on empathy and why it's important to build a strong and healthy relationship. Empathy is a fundamental part of building meaningful relationships. If your relationship lacks empathy, you can feel isolated and misunderstood easily.
Feeling that way sounds incredibly hard. So clearly, empathy is important to build and maintain emotional connection, but what is empathy?
Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. It involves truly listening and connecting emotionally. So let me ask you, do you have any moments in our relationship where you feel empathy?
Yeah. I like when I come to you to talk about my day and you pause on what you do or set your phone down and to look at me and listen.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. That is actually one of the first tips I'm going to share, and it is active listening. Maintain eye contact and respond with verbal and nonverbal cues. Have genuine interest in what the other person is saying. Show you're paying attention by summarizing what you're hearing. Reflect back on key points and emotions that they're saying and repeat it. Like, so it sounds like you're feeling frustrated when that happened to you. To make sure they feel completely heard, avoid interrupting. Allow them to finish their thoughts before interjecting.
Right. Being heard itself is like part of healing. Like when I have a big problem that I'm going through and I come to you and talk about it, usually I feel a lot better already by just being heard.
Right.
It happens, right?
Yeah.
And I also like when I can talk about K-pop to you, which
Yeah.
you're personally not interested in, but when I really want to talk about it, you still look me in my eyes and listen. It kind of proves to me that you can feel emotionally connected even when you don't like the same thing necessarily. Does that show empathy too?
Right, yeah, that's exactly empathy. So let me talk about another way to build empathy. The next thing you can do to practice empathy is to put yourself in their shoes. Try to imagine how they might be feeling and what they might be experiencing. Consider their perspective. Think about their values, experiences, and beliefs that might shape their worldview. For example, there was this couple that kept having a hard time resolving the conflict because whenever the conversation started to get heated, the girlfriend shuts down immediately. And the boyfriend would just think that she's not committed enough to overcome the obstacles of a long-term relationship. But the truth could have been that she came from an abusive household, and certain situations like raised voice or arguing in closed spaces can be triggering for PTSD. The reaction isn't always a result of just one reason that you know.
That makes sense. We've had moments when I realized some things I was taking personally was purely cultural,
Right.
or I was taking it a certain way because of my past experiences.
Exactly. It's always good to challenge your own bias. Be aware of how your own background might influence your interpretation of the situation.
For sure. Any other tips to build empathy in relationship?
Yes, another tip that I personally try to practice is slowing down. Sometimes you may be even too busy to notice your partner's needs. You may not be aware that you're missing something, and taking a pause might provide you with that chance to notice it. So this means slow down and be aware of yourself. When you're in task mode, your brain shuts down the part in charge of social connection. To remedy this, it's important to step back and relax. This may help you engage with your partner and become more attuned to their needs.
Okay, well, once you notice that your partner might be needing some empathy from you, what's the best way to give empathy to them?
One of the best ways to show empathy is to offer support and comfort. Comfort can be offered in different ways, like a warm hug, reassuring words of support, a listening ear, or even running an errand for your partner. The key here is to know what comforts them the most. You want to avoid accidentally crossing the boundaries while you're trying to comfort them, right?
Right.
And to learn about the 5 different love languages that your partner craves for, watch the video that we did on the 5 love languages.
That is really important because we have completely different love languages. You feel comforted through physical touch, like a nice warm hug, and I feel the most comforted through kind words, but we wouldn't have known if we didn't learn and talk about this.
Right. You never know how your partner receives support in the best way, so be sure to find that out about each other. That leads to our next tip, which is ask open-ended questions. Ask them to elaborate, like, how did that make you feel? Or, can you tell me more about that? Mind reading isn't the way empathy works in everyday life. It's more about trying to appreciate someone's point of view. If you're in a situation and you're struggling with showing empathy, it's not necessarily that you don't care. Your difficulty may be that you don't understand the other person's perspective. And asking questions is one way to change that. But when they answer your questions, make sure you're practicing active listening, like I mentioned earlier.
How about offering help? I feel like it's pretty common for someone to go talk to somebody else about their problem and receive advices. Is that empathy or no?
Right, it is, only if it's appropriate though. Meaning you should try not to fix the problem or their feeling, but you can simply ask if there is something that you can do for them. They might be too overwhelmed to come up with something in the specific moment, and that's okay. Just let them know that you are there when they need you. What is most important, and it's also our next tip, is that their feelings get validated. Before you start talking about moving forward, always acknowledge what they're feeling and going through right now. Without judgment, you say phrases like, it's understandable that you'd feel hurt, angry, or scared. So, practice empathy in your relationship to create a deeper, more meaningful bond. Remember, the habit isn't created overnight. It may take some time before you can improve the skills of empathy. Be patient and keep practicing these skills to build a stronger, more fulfilling partnership.
To get more tips on happier and healthier relationships, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell.